All right. Well, good evening, everyone.
Hello. I didn't say hello.
Hello. Good evening. I guess we release these in the evening, so that's not.
Yeah.
Yeah. Just happy Wednesday, anyway.
Happy day.
Yeah. So this is our 9th episode. We are very close to double digits.
It feels like a momentous
close.
occasion.
And kind of, yeah.
10. I don't know.
Yeah. I mean, that if this were a child, it'd be a preteen.
Yeah.
10.
Double digits.
Yeah.
I remember that birthday. I don't remember a lot of my birthdays. As a child, I had some concussions, I've told you before.
Yeah,
and
sure.
So there's a lot about my childhood that's a little fuzzy. But I do remember my 10th birthday because I remember thinking it was a big deal.
Yeah.
Because it was double digits.
Sure.
I don't know.
I don't remember a lot of my birthdays.
People who are hearing about the concussions for the first time are like, that
explains
a lot.
Yeah.
Makes a lot of sense.
So today is brought to you by Skittles.
Big hitter today.
Big hitter today. Skittles, Taste of the Rainbow.
So it's the original. You like
the
any
original,
of the like other newer?
You know, I don't really try the other flavors a whole lot. I know that I have in the past, but honestly, I'm kind of just an original.
There's no need.
Just stick with it. I mean, it's
110 calories. That's what, 27 pieces? Huh. Is that right?
Serving, yeah, about 27 pieces. So you eat 27 Skittles. It's 110 calories. So this is going to kill me one day. Definitely.
I want to do the math real quick. So 27 Skittles is 110. So let's say you have a 2,000 calorie diet. So 18 times 27. You can eat 490, almost 491 of those in a day.
And that's your entire...
And that would be your daily caloric intake.
Okay.
So now you know.
Now I know if I wanted to eat a diet exclusively of Skittles.
Only Skittles. 490. No more, because then it's unhealthy.
490 and a shot of insulin.
Yeah. So there you go. Okay, so off the wall, we have our first question, which is literally off the wall, unnecessarily so. It's not too crazy this time, but just a typical kind of question. But favorite season and why?
Yeah,
Dave.
So for me, I'm going summer.
Okay,
I'm going summer. I mean, closely followed by like spring and fall. Winter is way
basically
down.
You just hate winter.
I just hate winter. I hate cold. Absolutely, just can't stand it. It's summertime I can deal with. Sweating I can deal with that, but shivering I absolutely hate.
So why summer more than like spring?
Just
I didn't know there was going to be a follow-up question.
Right. It's just spring, both spring and fall. Sometimes you wake up in the morning and it's cold.
That's true.
And so you're like, it's harder to get out of bed because you just want to stay wrapped up in your blanket. Which nothing wrong with that, but at the same time, if you have stuff you need to do, you need to just get up and go do it.
Yeah.
And in summertime, it just seems for me just easier to be able to just like, oh, morning, let's go, let's get up and go.
So
days are longer. It just,
I was gonna say that I do love that.
Yeah.
So I would have always in the past, and I think still yet will say spring, because you are coming out of winter. Right. It's new birth. You feel good. The days are starting to get longer. My birthday is in March, so March is my favorite. March Madness, which you don't sports much, but March Madness is there.
Even I kind of like March
Even
Madness.
you do.
The college basketball.
I forgot that about you, yeah. So you got all this going for it, and I just like it. Oh, the time change happens to where the days do get longer.
Right.
So it is pretty close, though, for me between spring and summer. So summer, you're outside all the time, and it is hot, but the long days and so. Mm-hmm. All right, well, glad we settled that. I think we've decided that winter needs to go.
Yeah.
Anyway, I don't know. Okay, so we have partially... I almost accidentally said fan-submitted question. As if we had any fans. That's not what I meant to say.
Viewer.
Oh, yeah.
Viewer submitted.
Maybe they watch. Maybe they don't. We don't really know for sure. Do you know?
Well, I do know. I do know that they watch because shortly after they sent in this question, or at least part of this question, they also followed up by saying, "Hey, I hate horses too, man."
Oh, okay.
So, yeah.
There you go. Good. So a viewer, not a fan, a viewer submitted question, and it's a deep one.
It is deep. It's
like we've
also
added
a three-parter.
Yeah, we've added to it. We've went back even further to basics than they did. Maybe.
Right.
So anyway.
Right. So it's mostly kind of talking about heaven.
Yeah.
And so like I said, it's a three-parter question. So the first part, well, you want me to read out all three parts?
Maybe you read out all three, and then we'll just take them.
So the first part is, do babies who die go to heaven? And the question specifically, who submitted, he was asking like stillborns, miscarriages, that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
Will we be the same age in heaven? So, toddler who dies, are they a toddler in heaven? 95-year-old man who dies, is he going to be 95 in heaven? Joe Frank, when he dies at the age of 462, is he still going to be 462 in heaven?
Yes,
those are important questions.
Yes.
And then the last one, will we know each other in heaven?
Yeah.
Because that's a big thing that, when people ask, hey, what are you going to do in heaven? A lot of people point to, I'm going to catch up with my grandpa. I'm going to talk to these friends who, passed away in my life. So,
yeah. So I'll start off on the first one, I guess, about babies, when they die, do they go to heaven? I think a question like that, you automatically want to say yes. Right? I mean, you just automatically want to. But we're always, like everything we've said here, we're going to try to bring it as much back to Scripture as we can.
Yeah. And
so I want to show you some things that I think are helpful that you may or may not know. But I want to start. Here. And so in Genesis 18:25, this is talking about the Lord. It says, "Far be it from you to do such a thing, to put the righteous to death with the wicked, so that the righteous fare as the wicked. Far be that from you. Shall not the judge of all the earth do what is just?" Really want to focus in on that last part. Shall not the judge of all the earth do what is just? I want to start off by saying that God will do what is right and just every time. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean?
Right.
And so we may get to heaven and find out all kinds of things that we thought were this way, were that way. I'm not necessarily about this. And we're going to be the ones who were wrong. And we're going to realize that. Yeah. So I just want to start out by saying we can trust God with everything, every deep, hard question. He is just, and He is going to do what's right. But let me give you a couple of what I think are helpful things. And then you can add if you want about this particular one. But 2 Samuel 12:23, and I'll read a little bit around there. This is David, and he had made some pretty big mistakes here at this point, and had a baby with Bathsheba. You guys, I'm sure, remember he had Bathsheba's husband. Is it Uriah? Did I make that up?
Uriah the Hittite.
Yep. Uriah the Hittite. Had him move to the front of the battle, and everybody murdered him. So you got murder and adultery, and you've got, this is about the child that actually came out of this situation with David and Bathsheba. So I'm going to read a little bit here, okay? So this is 2 Samuel, starting in 15. "And the Lord afflicted the child that Uriah's wife bore to David, and he became sick." That's hard enough. That's a whole other question about God making a baby sick. But anyway, David therefore sought God on behalf of the child, and David fasted and went in and lay all night on the ground, and the elders of his house stood beside him to raise him from the ground, but he would not, nor did he eat food with them. On the 7th day the child died. And the servants of David were afraid to tell him that the child was dead. For they said, "Behold, while the child was yet alive, we spoke to him, and he did not listen to us. How then can we say to him, the child is dead? He may do himself some harm." But when David saw that his servants were whispering together, David understood that the child was dead. And David said to his servants, "Is the child dead?" They said, "He is dead." Then David arose from the earth and washed and anointed himself and changed his clothes and went into the house of the Lord and worshipped, which is there's a whole sermon right there, right?
Right, yeah.
He went in and worshipped at this moment. He then went to his own house, and when he asked, they set food before him, and he ate. Then his servant said to him, "What is this thing that you have done? You fasted and wept for the child while he was alive. But when the child died, you arose and ate food." He said, "While the child was still alive, I fasted and wept, for I said, 'Who knows whether the Lord will be gracious to me that the child may live?' But now he is dead. Why should I fast? Can I bring him back again? I shall go to him, but he will not return to me." And it's really that last part that you kind of latch onto, because honestly, there's no like specific verse that just lays this out for us, right?
Yeah, and that's something that the term age of accountability kind of gets thrown around when this subject comes up, which isn't necessarily an unbiblical concept, but it's not an explicitly biblical concept. There's nowhere that the Bible draws from directly that says, okay, yeah, at this age, if someone is old enough that they're able to understand the consequences of sin and hell and all that kind of stuff, and so that's the age in which they're responsible for their sins, and so if they don't get saved, then they're going to go to hell. So the Bible, it doesn't give us, unfortunately, an explicit answer to that question. But David was obviously pretty confident. That's one of the stories that I would have gone to immediately. He was pretty confident that, I'm going to go and see my son.
Yeah.
And
I'm pretty sure David did not expect he was going to go to hell.
Right. Yeah.
And see his, what I'm saying? Like,
right.
He's like, he's not going to come back. I'm going to go. I shall go to him. He will not return to me.
Right.
And so, I feel like you can, with genuine honesty and like integrity, say that seems like some pretty decent evidence that God has put in the Bible.
Yeah.
He allowed that to be said, right, and written down for all of us to read. So I do, kind of rely on that particular verse there.
I think, we probably don't have time to go through every verse in the Bible where it talks about God being just and loving, but, if you kind of put them all together, you could definitely say that our biblical, kind of image of God is one of someone who does not unjustly punish the innocent.
Right.
Right?
Yeah.
So with that kind of image in mind of who God is and his character, again, it's kind of one of those deals where you hesitate a little bit to just jump on and say, oh, yes, God's never going to.
Yeah. But I think you can, I'll read Romans 1 a little bit, and it goes along with what kind of you just said. Excuse me. He says, for the Romans 1:18, "For the wrath of God is revealed from heaven against all ungodliness and unrighteousness of men, who by their unrighteousness suppress the truth. For what can be known about God is plain to them, because God has shown it to them. For his invisible attributes, namely his eternal power and divine nature, have been clearly perceived ever since the creation of the world in the things that have been made. So they are without excuse." So he's and I'm going to read more, but he's kind of saying here, people have no excuse, because if they have nothing else, they can look around at nature and they can see like there is a God here, something's going on, right, and seek him out. And he says, if you seek him, you'll find him. So he says they're without excuse. And then 21, "For although they knew God, they did not honor him as God or give thanks to him, but they became futile in their thinking, and their foolish hearts were darkened. Claiming to be wise, they became fools, and exchanged the glory of the immortal God for images resembling mortal men, and birds and animals and creeping things. Therefore God gave them up in their lusts of their hearts to impurity." And it goes on. To me, this does not fit a child, right? Like, you can't really you can't really say, oh yeah, this infant looked around at nature and understood,
he had an
so
opportunity to seek
he's without
out.
excuse. You know what I mean? And again,
right.
We're trying to like argue it, I guess, theologically more than just, hey, there's this specific, very plain verse here.
Right.
But I think you can do that. So I don't know. Those are some of the things that I guess I think you can genuinely rely on. Do you have any more on that question, particular one?
No. Not really. I think that, to kind of summarize it, it's difficult to say definitively that yes, for a fact, here's where in the Bible it says, but it's more of, like you said, arguing it theologically. When you put all the pieces together, our, biblical image of God would suggest that, he's gonna.
And to me, this fits with miscarriages, kids who die even after birth.
Right.
Abortions. I mean, any of these categories you can put together. I think it fits. With all of that, and so, I think there's not a ton in the Bible about it, but I think we can. I would feel really, really confident, I guess, or comfortable in saying that yes, I believe, infants, babies that die, go to heaven. So. All right, what was the second part?
The second part was, will we be the same age in heaven? So, okay. I guess, or more specifically, maybe, what age will we be in heaven?
Okay.
And so, for this, kind of where I went to, and I'm not sure how much I'll end up reading, but 1 Corinthians chapter 15, specifically talks about the resurrection body. Mm-hmm. Us, specifically when we are resurrected. And let's see here. So he kind of goes through, and this is obviously, one of Paul's letters to the church in Corinth, mm-hmm. and he goes through and just kind of talks about a question that he got asked about how are the dead raised and all this kind of stuff. So they were asking good questions, and he goes through, what is reaped is sowed and all this kind of stuff. And then finally in verse 42, so it is with the resurrection from the dead. What is sown is perishable. What is raised is imperishable. Mm-hmm. It is sown in dishonor. It is raised in glory. It is sown in weakness. It is raised in power. It is sown a physical body. It is raised a spiritual body. If there is a physical body, there is also a spiritual body. Thus it is written, the first man, Adam, became a living being. The last Adam, Jesus, became a life-giving spirit. But it is not the spiritual that is first, but the physical, and then the spiritual. First man from the earth, from dust. Second is from heaven. And so a lot of people draw from that when we die, when we're then raised, we're going to have a new spiritual body, imperishable, kind of heavenly body, which is, to say everything of heaven is perfect. So we're going to have a perfect body. And we just kind of briefly talked about it beforehand, and Revelations and other places kind of give us an image of how we're going to be living in heaven and what that's going to look like, and that doesn't seem compatible with certain things, like a baby. Having the body of an infant just doesn't seem compatible with
like singing praises to the Lord.
Feasting was the one that jumped into my mind. Right. Or things like, someone who lives until they're 104 and then dies. The body of a 104-year-old is, that's pretty perishable, right? It's pretty fragile. It just,
apologize to all the
right.
What do you call them? Centenarians.
I don't know.
Something 100-year-olders out there. All the 100-year-old fans out there.
I can't remember that fan word around.
I know. It's not right.
So, I think, will we appear to be the same age? It just seems like... I think that to apply the term age is probably a bit of a flaw, because it's going to be an eternal body. It's going to be a body that never ages. It just kind of is. And so the whole concept of age is going to be different to us.
Yeah.
So, I don't know. What do you...
Well, I was thinking about, some people say, well, Jesus was like around about 33 when he died. Maybe we'll all be 33.
Right.
I mean, I don't think that's necessarily true. I mean,
right.
Could it be? Maybe, but
it could be. And that was one of the things that I was gonna like. Just simply because I'm 30, that means I still got 3 good years left in me.
I remember,
if I'm doing the math right.
So many years ago, I'm trying to look up some stuff. I'm not listening. But I remember so many years ago thinking that too. Like, well, it's all downhill from here, I guess. At 33.
Yeah. Well, and I think it is important to point out that Jesus, when he was resurrected, he wasn't exactly the same. He was recognizable, which actually this will go into our next question, but he was recognizable, but he clearly looked different. So, there's that hypothesis that when he raised, he kind of had his heavenly body at that point in time.
What? Yeah.
So he appeared different, but still his disciples still knew who he was, but it's clear from like the story on the road, they were talking with him, but they didn't immediately recognize him. So he looked slightly different. It wasn't until he broke the bread and they recognized his gestures and that kind of thing that they...
Yeah. And he had some capabilities that he at least didn't display before, but...
Right. Vanishing
and reappearing
somewhere.
Doors didn't matter,
right? Yeah,
those kind of things. So, will we be the same age? I'm kind of like you. When you get to a place that's eternal,
right?
I don't know that age is necessarily even really like a thing anymore.
So I guess physically, will we be the same age? No, would be my thing.
Right?
I'm gonna say no. Physically, we're not gonna be the same age because that kind of age is just no longer it just no longer matters.
Yeah.
And honestly, we could probably even say mentally, we'll still remember all of our experiences, from life. So
that's a whole other tricky.
Yeah.
Question, but we won't. I'm going to throw the question out there and we're just going to leave it.
Okay.
Because we don't have any time. But it's like, you're talking about there'll be no sadness in heaven and no weeping. And so if you can remember things from earth, will there be sadness with that? How does that change?
And you're just going to plop that down there.
And
then we're going to run on.
I warned you ahead of time. I'm throwing it out there and then we're moving on. So, so I've heard different theories about actually how much we will remember about different things, or loved ones who weren't Christians. You know what I mean? Like,
right?
You would think we were talking about it. We said we were going to move on. I'm sorry. We'll move on.
Okay.
So
put that on the list. I guess.
Put that on the add it to the list. Yep. So the last question was,
will we know each other in heaven? And the person who submitted this question, they specifically were asking, like, will we recognize our spouses? Will we know our spouses? Will we know our family? Will we be able to recognize them in heaven? And so, like I said, it was I don't have it looked up and ready to go, but in the gospel, when Jesus does return, and he meets up with some believers on the road to Gethsemane.
The road to Emmaus.
That's it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Road to Emmaus.
That's it, yeah. And he meets up with them and he travels with them and they're talking. he's kind of laying some wisdom on them, but they don't recognize him until they go into a house and they're preparing to eat, and he prays and breaks the bread, and the way he does that, they all of a sudden and then poof, he vanishes.
Then he's gone.
Yeah.
Which I'd love to be able to do that.
Right. And kind of the same thing with the disciples. He appears before them twice. The first time Thomas isn't there, and the second time Thomas is there. But, even Jesus is like, look at the scars. It's clearly me. Mm-hmm. So, again, there's that aspect of recognition, but also wasn't exactly the same.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, I think that it's one of those deals where, unique characteristics of us are still going to be,
Yeah. I want to read something to you and see what you think about this. I was listening and also trying to find this for the last
Sure.
5 minutes, but this is Matthew 17. And after 6 days, Jesus took with him Peter and James and John his brother and led them up a high mountain by themselves. And he was transfigured before them, and his face shone like the sun, and his clothes became white as light. And behold, there appeared to them Moses and Elijah talking with him. And Peter said to Jesus, Lord, it is good that we are here. If you wish, I will make 3 tents here, one for you, one for Moses, and one for Elijah. That's basically it. The question that I've heard posed before is, why would they have known who Moses and Elijah were?
Yeah.
And so it is possible, I guess I'm just throwing this out there as a possibility, not a definitive thing.
Sure.
It's possible we'll even know people that we didn't know before. Like we'll recognize maybe who they are. Yeah. Maybe we'll even recognize everybody.
Maybe.
Even though we didn't even really know them. You know what I mean? There may be some special kind of knowledge and
spiritual energy that
understanding.
I mean, it kind of makes sense, like spirit communing with spirit, that kind of thing.
Yeah.
Like
so
just kind of know.
I'm with you on, like, I definitely think we're gonna know each other. Some people get hung up on the fact that and I should have looked it up. There's some verses in the Bible that talk about how there's no marriage in heaven, and so they get worried, like, oh, I won't be married to my spouse anymore. And what I want to tell them is, you don't have to get hung up on that. Like, you're going to have a closeness in heaven with people that will be, I think, far beyond anything that we have now, even with your spouse. Yeah. And so it's not like, even if somehow that relationship changes or whatever, it won't be a lesser type of relationship.
Right. It's still going to be,
You're going to have a love and a unity with people that we don't.
And you'll you'll recognize your spouse. You'll know your spouse. You'll be able to spend time with your spouse. You'll
love them.
And you'll love your spouse the same as you will love everyone else. And that relationship will be a deeper love and a deeper understanding than anything you've experienced.
The best relationship you can think of now.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I don't know. To wrap all this up, and hopefully you can kind of see how it fits together. I mean, I think you can say, when I feel very confident when babies, infants, people who don't understand, don't have that kind of opportunity to, know God. I think they're going to go to heaven. Will they be the same age? I think doubtful.
Yeah.
Will we be the same age? I think doubtful. I don't even know, like, age is really a thing.
Right.
Are we going to know each other? We think yes. And so, I mean, that's going to be crazy.
Right. Not only know each other, but know each other on, like, a probably much deeper level. Yeah. Almost instinctually.
And I would imagine instantaneously.
Yeah.
When we're there.
Right.
And so, I probably can't talk about it too long, but I think about that reuniting of parents with maybe babies who have miscarried or something, and just our guess, I guess we would say, of them knowing them and being like, never actually really seen you, but I know you, like, just kind of blows your mind, in some ways. But so I mean, that's not the most uplifting topics, I guess, today, but he's talking about heaven. That's uplifting.
It's always uplifting.
There's the hope there. So
yeah.
All right, we probably better move on to our nerdy question of the day, one that I am interested in. That's old. Coolest animal in the Bible. We should update
the board,
our wall. Okay, Dave, are you ready?
Yes.
What if our solar system was in a different place in the Milky Way galaxy?
Okay.
So we are where we're at now, but what if it was just up and moved to a different place?
Right.
Or I guess, what if it was located in a different place in our Milky Way galaxy?
And so specifically with this question, it's talking about, like, the Milky Way galaxy is just basically a big old disk. In the center, we talked about when we talked about black holes, we've got that gargantuan black hole in the center.
All of our fans will remember.
Yes. Yes.
I'll stop.
Gargantuan black hole causing everything to spin.
Yeah.
And we're not on the very outer edge, but we're kind of like a little bit less than a third of the way in from the outer edge.
Okay.
So if we're closer or if we're farther away, how does that impact us and our lives? Okay. And so basically, the short answer is we would probably all die.
Okay. Not very helpful.
The more in-depth answer is like farther out on the rim. There would be, just a lot more debris. Things aren't as
like always dodging
right,
stuff.
right. There's not as much. Whereas where we're positioned now, a lot of the asteroids that would probably be big enough to cause some sort of an apocalyptic event, like what supposedly killed the dinosaurs.
Yeah.
They get blocked by stars. They get stopped by other planets that are in the Milky Way galaxy.
They're taking the hit for us.
They're taking the hit for us, and we wouldn't have that outer, in the outer portion. Also, even just smaller particles. We would be constantly bombarded with tiny pieces of iron and other just smaller debris. It honestly would probably affect the very chemistry of the Earth to be farther out. Farther in, similar problem. Okay, when the Earth was formed, it would have much less resources available because it's so much more dense the closer in you get. So all these stars and planets that are farther in are just sucking up all our necessary materials. Pretty much anything that we mine out of the Earth that we use to make life worth living around here, it wouldn't be as available when the Earth was formed. So could it still support life? Maybe, but it would look very different. And actually to the point where it might not be able to support life. So like with many other things, you will find that even our position, how far out we are in the Milky Way galaxy, is just so in order to support life and to continued life and intelligent life.
Yeah. And we would believe that God did that.
We would believe that God did that.
Yeah.
Other people would disagree with that.
Yeah.
And that's fine.
But wrong.
But wrong, yes. Yes.
Okay, Dave, got 3 dad jokes for you.
Woo!
I only put partial notes for one, so I'm trying to remember what it was. What is it? Yeah, okay, I got it. Okay, so here's the first one.
Okay.
I'm reading a horror book in Braille. Something bad is going to happen. I can feel it. Did I read that one already?
I don't know if you read it or if it was on Facebook.
Sorry if that's a repeat.
Yeah. Well,
Okay, that's a good one. Someone keeps sending me flowers with the heads cut off. And then the friend, I set this up terrible. Guy A, someone keeps sending me flowers with the heads cut off. His friend then says, sounds like you're being stalked. Oh boy. Okay, and finally, bank robber goes into the bank, says, give me all your money or your chemistry. And the bank teller says, do you mean history? Give me all your money or I'm history? And the robber says, don't change the subject. Oh, that's a good one. That's a good one.
That's a good one.
All right. Well, hard questions, I feel like. I mean, we're going with, I think, the best maybe that we can do.
Right.
We could probably do better.
These were all questions, some of those questions where there's not a definitive, Bible verse
go to this
to.
verse, this specific spot.
But again, it's one of those deals where you can kind of piece it together with just the overall knowledge of who God is biblically. And
Yep.
Yeah.
All right. Well, we'll have to think about it. I feel like we need to do something special for episode 10.
Yeah.
But I don't know what that'll be. We don't have the budget
for anything huge. Yeah. Anything fantastic. So. But once again, brought to us by Skittles.
Yeah.
Brought to you by Skittles.
And so.
Yeah.
All right, everybody. Look forward to seeing you. Episode 10 next time. Adios. See you later.